Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a topic you've probably heard whispered about, one that's surrounded by mystery and debate: the New World Order. We're going to unpack the story as presented in our source material, tracing its alleged path through history.
So let's just jump right in. This phrase, a new world order, it's not something that was just cooked up in some shadowy corner. It's been spoken out loud on the world stage by leaders themselves. Our source material points to quotes just like this one as evidence of a plan that's been hiding in plain sight the whole time.
So here's how we're going to break this all down today. First, we'll define what the New World Order is claimed to be. Then we'll trace its supposed roots way back in time, look at the rise of the Illuminati and the international bankers, and see how the playbook is allegedly used today. And finally, we'll get into what this all means for us.
All right, first things first, what is the New World Order anyway? According to the narrative we're looking at, it's not just some fuzzy concept. It's presented as a very specific, long-term project.
Well, the source material defines it as this massive, secret plan for a single world government. And it uses this great metaphor of a rope, explaining how all these different forces, political, economic, military, even religious, are supposedly being twisted together, all serving one ultimate goal.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because this slide lays out the supposed endgame. We're not just talking about a political alliance here. The claim is that the goal is the total, complete consolidation of every part of our lives: government, the economy, the military, even our beliefs, all under one single ruler. The whole shebang.
Now, to really get a grip on this plan, the source says you can't just start with modern history. No, you've got to go way, way back to ancient times, where the very foundation of this control was supposedly first laid. And it all boils down to one core principle: knowledge is power. Specifically, secret knowledge. I mean, think about it. If you're part of a tiny elite in an ancient society, and you know when an eclipse is coming, but nobody else does, wow, that secret knowledge gives you an incredible amount of control over the masses. And this timeline here, it shows the supposed path this secret knowledge traveled. The idea is that it was passed down like a sacred flame, from the mystery schools of Egypt and Babylon, through the powerful Knights Templar, the mystical Rosicrucians, and eventually into the lodges of modern Freemasonry.
Okay, so this brings us to a really critical moment in this whole story. This is where all those ancient threads of secret knowledge are supposedly bundled together into something, well, something new and much more aggressive.
The source points to this exact date, May 1st, 1776. And this guy, Adam Weishaupt, he's presented as the one who basically took all this old-school occult philosophy and turned it into a weapon, a concrete plan to totally remake the world by creating a secret society within a secret society.
And their agenda? I mean, it was nothing short of revolutionary. We're talking about tearing down the very foundations of the world as they knew it, getting rid of monarchies, private property, the family unit, even religion itself. The supposed goal was to burn it all down to build their new world on the ashes.
But, a plan that big, a plan to literally reshape the world, that takes money. A lot of money. And that brings us to the next major piece of this puzzle: international finance.
According to this viewpoint, the Rothschild banking family is absolutely central to the story. The narrative we're examining claims that Mayer Rothschild and his 5 sons built an empire not just by being good bankers, but by strategically funding governments and, really, profiting from their conflicts.
And this quote, which is attributed to Mayer Amschel Rothschild, really says it all, doesn't it? Give me control of a nation's money supply, and I care not who makes its laws. It's the ultimate statement that real power isn't in politics, it's in controlling the money.
So how did they get that control? Well, the source claims one of their biggest strategies was to fund both sides of a war. Take the Napoleonic Wars, for instance. With one son in London and another in Paris, they could allegedly back both the British and the French. No matter who won a Waterloo, they'd come out on top, with the victor deep in their debt.
All right, so let's fast forward a bit. How does this centuries-old plan supposedly play out in more modern times? Well, the source argues the playbook didn't change, it just got a whole lot more sophisticated.
And the main tool they supposedly use is what's called the Hegelian Dialectic. But let's just break it down into a simple formula: problem, reaction, solution. The idea is you create a problem, a crisis, an attack. Then you manage the public's reaction, usually fear and outrage. And finally, you swoop in with your pre-planned solution, a solution that pushes your agenda forward, something people would never have agreed to before the crisis.
And this slide shows a few powerful examples of how this model is applied to history. In each case, the Lusitania, Pearl Harbor, 9/11, the narrative claims a terrible event, the problem, was used to generate a massive public reaction. And that reaction was then used to justify a solution that dramatically expanded government power and furthered this globalist plan.
And a huge piece of this modern playbook was supposedly put in place in this year, 1913. Why is that year so important? Because according to this narrative, that's when the US Federal Reserve was created. This act is seen as the moment control over America's money was handed from the people to a small group of private international bankers.
So this all leads to the big question, right? What does any of this mean for us today? If this whole thing is real, if there's this massive plan of control, can anything even be done about it?
The source material really hammers this point home. The plan's biggest weapon is secrecy. And it uses this quote from JFK to highlight that fundamental clash between a free, open society and the kind of power that operates in the shadows.
So what's the takeaway? It's not a call for a physical revolution, it's a call for awareness. The whole argument is that these systems of control, they can only really work if people don't know they exist. So knowledge, just understanding how it all supposedly works, that is the real power. That's the defense.
And as a final piece of evidence, the narrative points to something you might have in your wallet right now, the US $1 bill. It claims the symbols have been hiding in plain sight this whole time. The eagle is actually a phoenix rising from the ashes. And that Latin phrase, Novus Ordo Seclorum, it's translated as New Order of the Ages, or more directly, New World Order, a public declaration right under our noses.
And that leaves us with one final big question to chew on, straight from the source material. If secrecy is the elite's most powerful tool, then is knowledge the people's ultimate defense? Is simply waking up to the game enough to change the outcome? That's the idea we're left with.